The distant stars blinked like ancient eyes as the sleek alien ship hurtled through the inky expanse of space. Aboard the ship, 3 alien students sat in a small observation room, their eyes filled with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. They had traveled across galaxies to reach this moment, a moment that would soon reveal the unknowns of the human world. Earth. The mission was straightforward: study, learn, and document the planet known throughout the cosmos as a death world. Earth had long been a subject of mystery for these peaceful and intelligent beings. Their race, the Zayara, was known for their advanced technology, diplomacy, and compassion. The Zayara had never waged war or created conflict. They had spent centuries exploring the farthest reaches of the galaxy, seeking knowledge, fostering peace, and trying to understand the various life forms across the universe. But Earth was different. Earth's reputation was darkened by the tales of violence, chaotic environments, and relentless species survival, especially the humans. Zelith, the leader of the group of students, stood at the front of the observation room. She was tall, with sleek violet skin and sharp, pointed features that displayed intelligence and composure. Her eyes, however, were not composed. They gleamed with excitement, a gleam that had been building ever since they received the mysterious signal from Earth. Her fellow students, Erin and Tova, were equally as nervous, but their academic instincts were far too strong to be overshadowed by fear. Zelith turned to her companions. "You both realize this is unprecedented, don't you?" she said, her voice soft, but carrying the weight of significance. "No species has ever sent a direct invitation to our kind before. No request for help or study. Yet, Earth did." Erin, whose antennae twitched with barely contained energy, nodded. "Yes, it's fascinating, but also ominous. I study the records. Earth is a world of extreme violence. The natural predators, the storms, the diseases, it's unlike anything we've encountered. The humans, they thrive there," Tova interrupted, her tone almost disbelieving. Tova had always been the most adventurous of the trio, eager to jump into the unknown. But even she hesitated. "How can anything survive under such conditions? I don't understand how life there persists, let alone flourishes." Zelith smiled, her large, luminescent eyes scanning the ship's holographic projections of Earth's ecosystems. "That's exactly why we're here, to understand the paradox, and most importantly, to study the humans themselves." The trio had come across a signal that had been broadcast from Earth, an unusual occurrence. The message had no clear origin, and the language was fragmented and strange. Yet it had been unmistakably clear in its urgency. The message described something catastrophic, something threatening the very survival of the planet. The Zayara, being explorers of knowledge and peace, couldn't simply ignore it. They had to learn more, and perhaps even assist Earth in whatever way they could. The ship began to descend into Earth's atmosphere, and the students felt their excitement grow. Through the observation window, they could already see the blue planet beneath them, swathed in clouds. Earth's atmosphere was dense and turbulent, like a boiling pot on the verge of spilling over. There was a strange beauty to it, yet there was also something unsettling about it. Arrival. The Zayara ship landed softly on the surface of Earth, its advanced technology ensuring a smooth descent into a large, dense forest area. The students stepped out of the craft, their boots sinking slightly into the soft, damp earth. They looked around them, taking in the dense trees, the strange sounds from unseen creatures, and the raw power of the environment. Everything felt alive in a way they had never experienced before. "We've landed," Zelith said, her voice carrying a note of wonder as she looked at the horizon. The light was dim, and the air felt thick, saturated with moisture. The overwhelming scent of wet soil and decaying vegetation filled their senses. It was clear that Earth's environment was as volatile as the records had suggested. A sudden rustle in the trees snapped their attention to the left. A creature, unlike any they had ever seen, darted through the foliage. A large quadrupedal being, with leathery skin and large, jagged teeth. It was gone in a flash, but the impression of its power lingered. "We've been warned," Aaron said softly, his antennae twitching with unease. Zelith stepped forward, her eyes sharp and calculating. "Keep your senses alert. We're here to observe, not to intervene. This is not a military mission. Let's keep our focus." The group advanced cautiously, their boots crunching through the thick undergrowth, every sound amplified by the eerie silence of the forest. Though they were advanced beings, capable of incredible feats of technology, Earth's environment posed a new kind of challenge. There was a primal energy to the planet, one that was hard to ignore. Even with their technology, they couldn't fully control their surroundings. It wasn't long before they stumbled upon the first human settlement, an isolated village in the distance, nestled at the base of a mountain. The settlement seemed primitive at first glance, with structures made from rough-hewn wood and stone. Yet the presence of electronic devices, solar panels, and other technological artifacts suggested that humanity had mastered the balance between nature and technology. Zelith motioned for her companions to remain hidden, and they observed the humans from afar. The humans were unlike any species they had encountered. They were small, fragile in comparison to the Zayara, yet there was an undeniable strength in their eyes. The Zayara had expected to find an aggressive, violent species. After all, Earth's reputation was that of a death world. But what they saw in the humans was something unexpected. They weren't just survivors. They were resilient, adaptable, and surprisingly resourceful. The unforeseen invitation. As the Zayara students observed the humans, they saw something that further intrigued them. The humans were not merely surviving. They were building, growing, learning. Despite the dangers that surrounded them, they had developed complex systems of cooperation, technology, and innovation. Suddenly, Zelith's communicator buzzed with a transmission. It was the signal they had detected earlier, but this time it came with coordinates that led directly to them. The message was clearer this time, though still fragmented. "We need help. Stop them. Can't hold. Please, help us." Zelith frowned. There was a sense of urgency in the message that couldn't be ignored. The humans had asked for help, not just survival assistance, but something more profound. There was a threat to their survival, and it was clear that the Zayara students were now part of it. "We have to find the source of this distress signal," Zelith said, determination in her voice. "We cannot leave without understanding the full scope of what is happening here." The three students set off toward the coordinates, the sense of mystery deepening with every step. Earth had always been seen as a world of chaotic forces, but now it was becoming clear that these forces weren't just environmental. They were part of something much larger, something the humans had discovered, and something the Zayara needed to understand. The encounter. As the trio followed the coordinates, they found themselves in a clearing, where a strange structure stood in the middle of the forest. The structure was metallic, alien in design, yet somehow familiar. It was a massive cylindrical shape, partially buried in the earth, and faint lights pulsed from within. "This is it," said Zorak, another Zayara student, as they approached the structure. "This is where the signal is coming from." Zelith nodded. "Prepare yourselves. We don't know what we're going to find." The trio entered the structure cautiously. Inside, the walls were lined with advanced technology that seemed both foreign and familiar. The source of the distress signal was in the heart of the structure, a complex network of wires and screens. But it wasn't the technology that shocked them. It was the figure standing before them. A human girl, no older than 16, stood in front of the control panel, her hands trembling as she tried to operate the machinery. She was alone, and yet her eyes were filled with a fierce determination. Zelith stepped forward. "Are you the one who sent the signal?" The girl turned, her face pale but resolute. "Yes, I've been trying to stop them, but I don't know how much longer I can hold out. They won't stop until they've destroyed everything." The truth was becoming clear. Earth wasn't just a death world because of its violent creatures or harsh conditions. It was a death world because of the relentless, unseen forces that threatened humanity's existence. And now, the Zayara students had a choice: continue observing or intervene. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long, angular shadows across the barren landscape. The air was still, thick with the tension of what was about to unfold. Zelith, Erin, and Tova, the Zayara students, stood together at the edge of the strange alien structure they had discovered in the forest. The human girl who had led them here was now standing before a massive, sleek doorway, her face drawn with worry, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and determination. "This is it," the girl whispered, glancing at the trio. "The final trial." Zelith stepped forward, her violet skin almost glowing in the dim light. Her mind was racing with questions. What kind of trial could this be? Earth had already revealed itself as a place of brutal survival, a world where life had learned to adapt and evolve under constant threat. But this felt different. This was not simply about surviving in a hostile environment. This was something far deeper, something the humans had built into the very fabric of their civilization. "What kind of trial?" Erin asked, his voice tentative. His antennae twitched, and his posture was tense. He had always been the more cautious of the group, preferring to analyze situations from every angle before making a decision. The girl took a deep breath and walked toward the door. "It's a test that proves if you're strong enough to understand the true power of Earth. Only those who survive the trial can protect the world from the force that is coming." Zelith exchanged a glance with Tova. They had been trained for all kinds of challenges. They had survived in hostile environments, solved complex puzzles, and faced creatures far more dangerous than anything humanity had encountered. But the look in the girl's eyes told them this was no ordinary challenge. The stakes were higher than anything they had faced before. "Then we are ready," Zelith said, her voice firm. "We've come to understand Earth, and if this trial will help us do that, we'll face it head-on." The door slid open with a hiss, revealing a long corridor lined with faint, glowing symbols that seemed to pulse with energy. As they stepped inside, the temperature dropped suddenly, and the atmosphere grew dense. The air felt thick, as though it were charged with a kind of electricity. The girl walked ahead, leading the group into the heart of the structure. "This is where the trial takes place," she said, her voice low. "It's a mental trial. It's not about strength or physical ability. It's about understanding. The Earth itself will challenge you, and you must answer it." Zelith felt a chill run down her spine as they moved deeper into the structure. The air grew heavier with each step, the energy in the room building. She could feel the pulse of something ancient, something vast beneath their feet. It was as if Earth itself was alive, watching them, waiting for them to prove their worth. The first challenge. The past and the present. The corridor suddenly widened into a vast chamber, and at the center stood a massive stone archway. The surface of the arch shimmered with faint symbols, but there was no visible door. Instead, the space beyond it was a blur, a swirling vortex of light and shadow. The girl stopped just before the archway. "This is the first trial. To pass through, you must face your past. Earth will show you visions. Only by confronting what you've seen and learning from it will you be allowed to move forward." Zelith exchanged a glance with her companions. The stakes of this trial were becoming clearer by the moment. This was no ordinary test of strength. It was a test of the mind and spirit. Tova, the most adventurous of the group, stepped forward. "I'll go first." The girl nodded, stepping aside. As Tova approached the archway, the swirling vortex grew stronger, the lights flashing faster. For a moment, Tova hesitated, her heartbeat quickening. But then, with a deep breath, she stepped through. Instantly, the world around her seemed to shift. She was no longer standing in the chamber. She was standing on a battlefield. The sounds of war filled the air. Distant gunfire, the clash of metal, the roar of engines. She could see flashes of bright lights in the distance, explosions and chaos. Her heart pounded in her chest as she looked around. What was this place? It was familiar, yet strange. The battlefield stretched out endlessly before her, and she could see figures in the distance, figures she recognized. Tova, a voice whispered from behind her. She spun around to see her younger brother Karen, standing there. He was smiling, but there was something wrong in his eyes. You didn't save us. You left us behind. Tova felt her heart freeze. She had always been the strong one, the protector of her family. But in this vision, she saw her own failure. She had failed to protect those she loved. She had abandoned them in the heat of the battle. Her mind raced with guilt as she tried to reach out to Kiran, but he faded away before her eyes, vanishing into the smoke of the battlefield. Tova, the voice called again. You didn't stop it. You didn't stop the war. The world around her shifted, and Tova was suddenly back in the alien structure, gasping for breath. The images faded, leaving her breathless, shaken to the core. What was that? She gasped, looking at Zelith and Aaron. Zelith stepped forward, her voice steady. It was a vision, a memory, the past, the guilt you carry. You had to confront your failures. Earth doesn't allow us to move forward without acknowledging the weight of our choices. Tova shook her head, still trembling. I didn't expect this. I thought I could escape that part of myself. Erin stepped forward and placed a hand on her shoulder. None of us can escape our pasts, Tova, but we can learn from them. Tova nodded, taking a deep breath. The trial had been harder than she had imagined, but it had taught her something. It had forced her to face the darkness within herself, to confront the mistakes she had made. She knew now that she could move forward if she was willing to learn. The second challenge, the future. After Tova had regained her composure, Zelith stepped forward. She knew the second trial would be different. The past was a weight she carried, but the future, what awaited her in the unknown, was the real test. As Zelith stepped through the archway, the world around her changed instantly. She was no longer in the alien structure. She was on a distant world, surrounded by alien cities and strange creatures. The future, a place of possibilities, stretched out before her, but it was clouded with uncertainty. She looked around, but something was wrong. She saw flashes of herself in these future worlds, walking alone, separated from her people. She saw her race, the Zayara, divided, consumed by conflict. The technology they had created, the knowledge they had gathered, was being destroyed. The civilization that had once been peaceful was on the verge of collapse. Zelith, a voice called. She turned to see the image of her mother, standing before her. You were supposed to save us. You were supposed to bring peace to the galaxy. Instead, you've let it fall apart. Zelith's heart sank. Her mother's words pierced her like a blade. She had always believed that the Zayara's peaceful ways would lead them to greatness, but now she saw the consequences of their failures. They had sought to protect, to heal, but in doing so, they had neglected the need for strength, for action when it was necessary. Is this my future? Zelith asked, her voice trembling. Am I the one who failed? Her mother's form faded, and Zelith was left alone, the weight of the future pressing down on her. The vision had been brutal, but it had shown her the truth. She could no longer hide behind ideals. The galaxy wasn't perfect, and peace wasn't always the answer. The final test. Acceptance. Zelith stepped out of the vision, her mind reeling. She faced Erin and Tova, her expression resolute. She had learned something crucial. The future was not something that could be predicted. It was something that had to be shaped through action, through the choices they made in the present. The future is always uncertain, Zelith said, her voice steady. But we cannot let that stop us from moving forward. We must take action. We must act in the present to shape a future that is worth living. Erin and Tova nodded, understanding the gravity of the trial. The ultimate test was not about surviving the trials of Earth. It was about understanding Earth itself. The planet's brutal past and uncertain future were part of its essence, part of what made it strong. Earth was a world that did not shy away from its darkness. It confronted it and grew from it. The three students stood together, their resolve strengthened. The trials had tested their minds, their spirits, and their will. And now, they understood what Earth had been trying to teach them. It was a lesson of survival, not through brute force, but through resilience, understanding, and the courage to face both the past and the future. They were no longer just observers. They were part of Earth's story, just as Earth was part of theirs. And with that, they moved forward, together. The air in the alien structure hummed with the strange energy of Earth's test. The Zayara students, Zeleth, Erin, and Tova, stood in the center of the room, surrounded by the haunting silence that had followed the trials. After what had seemed like an eternity of facing their own weaknesses and confronting visions of failure, they were left with the profound feeling that Earth had shown them something more important than survival, the necessity of understanding. The planet wasn't just a brutal test of physical strength. It was a challenge to the mind, the heart, and the spirit. Despite this realization, a part of them was still shaken. None of them had expected the visions to be so personal, so confronting. Zeleth had questioned her own ideals. Erin had confronted his doubts about their mission. Tova had come face to face with the guilt of past mistakes. Yet they had emerged stronger, knowing that Earth's brutal challenges were not here to break them, but to teach them. It was a lesson they would carry back to their people. But what they had not anticipated was what happened next. They had just begun to process the emotional weight of the trials when a sudden, sharp sound echoed throughout the chamber. The walls of the alien structure seemed to pulse with an energy far more intense than before. For a moment, it was as though the building itself was alive, breathing in sync with their every movement. The air crackled with tension, and before they could react, a blinding light erupted from the chamber center. Zeleth instinctively raised her hand to shield her eyes, but the light was too bright. For what seemed like an eternity, they stood frozen, caught between fear and awe as the energy shifted around them, coiling and twisting with raw power. In that moment, everything seemed to freeze, as if the very fabric of time and space were stretching. When the light finally receded, everything went silent once more. The Zayara students blinked, adjusting to the dim surroundings of the chamber. But something was different. There was a change in the air, a weight, a pull, something that they could not quite place. They turned to each other in confusion. "Tova?" Erin asked, his voice shaky. "What just happened?" I don't know," Tova replied, her voice tight with uncertainty. Then it happened. A low, familiar voice echoed through the chamber, carrying with it an unmistakable weight. "It's not over." The voice seemed to reverberate within their minds, as though it was not spoken but transmitted directly into their consciousness. The students turned toward the source of the voice and gasped. Standing before them, emerging from the heart of the chamber, was the human girl, the one who had led them here, the one who had shown them the mysterious structure and had warned them of the trial ahead. But this time, she was different. She was glowing with an otherworldly light, her form standing tall and unyielding. Her eyes, once filled with doubt, now burned with a strange ethereal power. The girl seemed to radiate an energy the students could not comprehend, something more powerful than they had ever encountered. Who are you?" Zeleth asked, her voice trembling despite her efforts to remain composed. The girl's lips curled into a knowing smile. "I am not who you think I am. I was the one who guided you here, yes. But I am also the one who has learned what Earth has to teach as you have." Erin stepped forward, his eyes narrowing in suspicion. "What do you mean? We thought you were human. We thought you were part of Earth's struggle, part of what we needed to understand." The girl's expression softened, and she stepped forward, her footsteps glowing with each movement. "I was once human, but Earth's trial has transformed me. I was tested, just as you were, but my test was different. I was chosen to be part of something greater." The students exchanged confused looks. Zeleth's heart raced. "What do you mean? What's happened to you? What have we missed?" The girl's gaze turned distant, as though lost in memories of another time. "When you arrived, I led you through the trial. You faced your past and your future, the darkest parts of yourselves. But Earth's test was not merely to confront you. It was to awaken something deep within all of us, something that existed long before you came here, long before I ever stepped into this place." Zeleth's breath caught in her chest. She had learned something profound from Earth's trials, but now it was clear that the true nature of Earth's power was far beyond what they had ever imagined. The human girl before them, changed as she was, held the key to something even more extraordinary. "Awaken," Tovat asked, her voice low. "What are you talking about? What has Earth done to you?" The girl's expression hardened, and she looked directly at Zeleth. "Earth has shown me the truth. It has shown me that this world is not just a death world. It is a world of transformation. The planet itself is alive, a living entity that shapes the beings who survive here. I was the first to learn its secret. And now, it has chosen me." Zeleth took a step back, overwhelmed by the weight of the revelation. The idea that Earth itself was more than just a planet, but a living entity with the power to transform its inhabitants, was more than they could comprehend. And yet, the girl before them seemed to be proof of that truth. "What are you now?" Aaron asked, his voice filled with both fear and awe. The girl's glowing form seemed to shimmer as she looked down at her hands, as though she was still coming to terms with the change that had overtaken her. "I am not fully human anymore, but I am not like you either. I have become something more. Earth has awakened a power within me, a power that can help this world survive." Zeleth stepped closer, her mind racing with the implications of the girl's transformation. "You've become something else. But why? Why did Earth choose you?" The girl's gaze shifted to the horizon, and for a moment, she seemed lost in thought. "Because I am a product of this world. I was tested, just as you were, but while you were focused on understanding, I was chosen to embody what Earth is, the survival, the resilience, the raw power that comes from living in constant conflict. I am what happens when you are transformed by Earth's will." She paused, then continued, her voice taking on an urgent tone. "And now, the real test begins. Earth is calling us to protect it, to become its guardians. The trials were just the beginning. The true challenge lies ahead." Zeleth's mind raced. "Guardians? What do you mean? What must we do?" The girl's expression turned solemn. "Earth is not just a death world. It is a world of untapped potential. It has the power to reshape the galaxy, to create life and destroy it in the same breath. But it cannot do this alone. It needs protectors, beings who understand its true strength and its vulnerabilities. The trial you faced was to prepare you, and now, the three of you must help me defend this world. There is an external force approaching, one that will stop at nothing to exploit Earth's power." A shiver ran down Zeleth's spine. "An external force? What kind of threat are we facing?" The girl stepped forward, her glowing form now fully radiant. "The kind of threat that will tear this world apart if it is allowed to succeed. The kind that will consume everything in its path, just as the chaos and death you saw in your visions. But unlike the others who came before, you three have the power to stop it. You will be the first true protectors of Earth." Zeleth, Erin, and Tuva stood in silence, the gravity of what had been revealed sinking in. The girl was no longer just a guide. She was something far more powerful, and Earth had chosen her to be its protector. But now, it was clear that the Zayara students had been called to Earth for a reason. They had a role to play in the future of this chaotic world, a role that would define their futures and the survival of the planet itself. And so, the unexpected return of the girl, the transformed human, marked the beginning of a new chapter. The students were no longer mere observers of Earth's power. They were now part of its story, bound by the planet's will to protect and preserve it at any cost. The chamber was silent, save for the low hum of energy that seemed to vibrate through the air. Zeleth, Erin and Tova stood in a triangle around the transformed human girl, whose glowing form had once again become the focal point of their mission. The girl had been more than they had expected. Her transformation was not just physical, it was spiritual and cosmic, an embodiment of Earth's will. She had become a protector, a force that would defend Earth against the threat approaching from the far reaches of the galaxy. Zelith's heart raced. She had come to Earth to understand its mysteries, to study its death-defying ecosystems, but now she realized that Earth's true power lay not in its chaotic, dangerous nature, but in the resilience and transformation it instilled in those who survived. The girl, a living testament to Earth's will, had revealed something far greater than they had anticipated. Earth wasn't just a planet. It was a force in and of itself, one that could shape life and death, and it had called on them for help. "We're not just here to observe," Zelith whispered, her voice filled with determination. "We're here to protect." Tova and Erin nodded in unison, the weight of their purpose settling in. They had always seen themselves as explorers, diplomats seeking peace across the galaxy. But now, their mission had changed. They were no longer observers. They were protectors, defenders of Earth's fragile yet unyielding existence. The girl, now standing at the center of the chamber, spoke again, her voice steady but filled with urgency. "The final challenge is upon us. The force that threatens this world is already close. It is a dark force that will stop at nothing to exploit Earth's power for its own gain. We must stop it, or Earth will be lost." Zelith stepped forward, her mind clear. "We will not let that happen. What must we do?" The girl's eyes, once filled with uncertainty, now gleamed with certainty. The power of Earth lies in its ability to adapt, to fight, to create life, and destroy it when necessary. This dark force knows no mercy, and it feeds on destruction. You three must face it in its purest form. The challenge is not just physical or mental. It is spiritual. You must confront what you fear most, what has held you back from your true potential. Erin's antennae twitched nervously. "What do you mean by that? What is this force?" The girl's expression turned grim. "It is not a being you can simply fight. It is the embodiment of destruction, a force that thrives on fear and despair. It has no form, no identity, but it exists as a consuming presence, one that can manipulate minds, emotions, and even the physical world. It is here, in this very space, and it is waiting for us to fail." Zelith turned to her companions. They had faced challenges before, but this was unlike anything they had ever encountered. Earth's power was alive, but so was the dark force that threatened to consume it. "We need to trust in what we've learned," Zelith said, her voice calm and resolute. "This world, Earth, has shown us the way. It is not through force that we will win, but through unity and understanding." The chamber suddenly trembled, as though the very walls of the structure were shaking in anticipation. The air thickened, and a low, vibrating hum echoed throughout the room. The dark force was here. The students could feel its presence, an oppressive, suffocating energy that clawed at their minds, pulling at their fears, their doubts, their deepest insecurities. Zelith closed her eyes, trying to center herself. She had faced doubt before, but this was different. This force didn't just challenge her physically. It challenged her very sense of self, her purpose, her belief in everything she had worked for. She felt her thoughts spiral, a voice in her head whispering that they were not strong enough, that Earth would be destroyed, that they would fail. "Do not listen to it." The girl's voice broke through the chaos. "It feeds on your fears. It has no power over you unless you give it. You must face it and let go of your doubts. Only then will you be able to stop it." Zelith opened her eyes, her heart steadying as she focused on the girl's words. She understood now. Earth was not just a test of survival. It was a test of strength and inner peace. It was about facing the chaos within themselves, the fear, the uncertainty, and overcoming it. Suddenly, the dark presence surged forward, manifesting as a swirling mass of shadow and energy. It took shape, but not in a physical sense. It was everywhere, seeping into their minds, twisting their perceptions, distorting their reality. The students felt their connection to each other waver as they were assaulted with visions of failure, of the destruction of Earth, of their defeat. The darkness knew their weaknesses, their deepest fears, and it used them against them. Aaron stumbled back, clutching his head. I can't. It's too much." Zelith reached out, her hand steady. "Aaron, focus. Don't let it take hold. Remember why we're here. Remember Earth. Remember that we have the strength to overcome this." Tova, eyes wide with fear, whispered, "How can we fight something like this?" Zelith took a deep breath. "We fight it with unity. Together, we can defeat it." In that moment, something shifted. The Zayara students, though each struggling with their own fears and doubts, stood united. They focused on the truth that Earth has shown them, that survival wasn't about brute strength or overcoming external obstacles. It was about understanding the world, embracing its challenges, and finding inner strength through connection and unity. The girl, who had transformed through Earth's trials, stepped forward, her glowing form shining brighter. "You are not alone. You never were. We are Earth's guardians, and together, we are its strength." As the girl's words rang out, the dark force seemed to writhe in pain, its shadowy form flickering as though it could not bear the power of their unity. The Zayara students raised their hands, channeling the energy of the Earth itself, allowing its power to flow through them. They did not fight the darkness with force. They embraced it, accepted it, and then let it go, allowing the energy of Earth to transform their fears into strength. The dark force began to disintegrate, its presence fading with each passing second as the students' combined power overwhelmed it. The chamber shook one final time. And then, silence. The darkness was gone, and the room was bathed in a soft, golden light. The end of the trial. Zelith, Erin, and Tova stood together, their bodies trembling from the exertion, but their minds clear. The girl, still glowing with an ethereal energy, smiled. "You did it," she said, her voice filled with pride. "You faced the darkness within yourselves, and you overcame it." Earth's trial was never about defeating the external force. It was about facing the internal one. The fear, the doubt, the weakness that holds us back. Zelith nodded slowly, the weight of the challenge settling in. "We didn't just defeat the darkness. We learned from it. We learned that our strength comes from within, from our unity and our understanding." Tova smiled, feeling the weight lift off her shoulders. "And from trusting each other." Erin looked up, his expression more at peace than it had been since they arrived. "Earth has taught us something incredible. It's not about surviving. It's about learning. It's about understanding." The girl's glowing form dimmed, and she stepped back. "You are the guardians now. You've learned what Earth has to teach, and you've proven that you are worthy of protecting it. But remember, this world will always challenge you. The trials will continue, but you are no longer just visitors. You are part of Earth's story." Zelith, Erin, and Tova stood tall, ready to face whatever came next. They had been tested, transformed, and chosen. The journey was not over. The trials would continue, but they were no longer alone. They had Earth's power within them, and together they would ensure that the planet's strength would never be taken for granted again. And so, the three students from Zayara stepped forward into the future, their purpose now clear. They were no longer just explorers, they were protectors, guardians of Earth's incredible power and resilience.